Aside from the obvious one being raiding, challenging solo player content is one of my favourite things to do in World of Warcraft. From Brawler's Guild, which I'm really excited to see coming back with 11.2.7, the Mage Tower to unlock the sexy bear form for my druid, and even recently with the Heroic World tier early on in Legion Remix when none of us had any gear. Anything that's a challenge and doesn't even need a particularly big reward for completing it, where the reward is the accomplishment of learning what you have to do and then executing it correctly. In recent expansions, for me personally, delves were one of the best additions to the game. Sure, you naturally outgear it, and when your companion gets good enough abilities and levels up, it makes it significantly easier, and even the class and spec that you play has a big impact on how easy, let's say, tier 11 delves are. But I've been doing tier 11 delves on the beta now on a few different classes, and you could say I'm cheating because I must admit 2 of the 3 have been tanks, so a Brewmaster and a Guardian Druid, but then I've also been doing it as a Fury Warrior as well, and yeah, the Fury Warrior definitely has a harder time. But I don't think it's any secret that being a tank and then setting your companion as DPS just makes life so much easier. So instead of Bram Bronzebeard now, this expansion's companion is Valeera Sanguinar. Valeera as DPS just makes it pretty comfortable even at low levels of gear. To put it into perspective, I hit level 90 and then I just started spamming Grudge Pit, which is one of the new delves over in Harrandar. I even used this delve on my druid just to level by just spamming it back to back because of how quick it is, and the XP worked out pretty decent to be fair because you are just rattling through it in, I don't know, 3.5 minutes. And really briefly on the new system, which I'm sure you've heard about, being Prey, this really fills out that solo player content, and what I've seen of Prey so far is a really enjoyable system if you do it right. It looks like you can only do 8 Prey targets a week, which is the unfortunate thing because it wasn't until today at reset where I got more targets, and I'd already done 8 in, like, I don't know, not even an hour. So I've actually been sat pretty much all week not being able to do any more Prey, which kind of sucks. So I'm hoping that that's just the beta and it's janky and we're going to be able to do a lot more than just 8. Now, when I said Prey's enjoyable if you do it right, that might not make sense to you at the moment, but I've got a Prey video coming out in the next couple of days, so make sure you like and subscribe so you see that, because it'll absolutely make sense once you've seen it. But anyway, back to delves. There's a few changes, but nothing major. Of course, you've now got your stealthy rogue Valeera instead of Bran, and she seems decent enough, and to be completely honest, I've noticed barely any difference between the two in terms of their relevant power. She does seem to die a lot more though, but that could just be the massive pulls that I'm constantly doing. The abilities are pretty interesting, but ultimately all I do use are the highest ranks of each ability as I unlock them. So for example, if I've got a rank 3 Sanctum's Decree, but everything else is rank 2, I'll just use the rank 3. It's not until I've got rank 4 in all of them where I'll then decide which 2 I actually really want to stick to. Because I think by the time you've got to the point where you've got all rank 4s unlocked, it'll be pretty evident which ones you need and which ones you don't need. Because at the moment the ones I like to use are Sanctum's Decree, where your companion has a chance during combat via casting spells, abilities, or from slaying enemies to gain a blessing. Each blessing grants 1% increased healing and damage. Upon reaching 40 blessings, your companion becomes a Sanctum's Champion, converting 60% of their current health into an absorb shield that lasts for 2 minutes, or obviously until they've took enough damage to get rid of it. And while the shield holds, they're going to do even more damage. Now, when they slay elite enemies, they get 10 blessings, and when they slay normal ones, they get 2. So it's just extra damage constantly, and as I say, that absorb shield as well really helps because she does die a lot. And then the other one I use is Eben Crown of Subjugation. Now, this might seem a weird one, and you will only use this early on, or I would at least recommend using it early on. So opening a Mislaid Curiosity summons a Subjugated Burden up to 8, so you can have 8 of these at the same time, and during combat it increases your agility by 2%, so you can get 16% more, well, for me, agility, because I was on a monk. After gathering at least 6, their effectiveness is increased. But the reason it's important is because you will want to be opening Mislaid Curiosities early on in your delve journey, whereas much later, where you're just getting in there just to use your relic coffer keys, you're probably not going to be that bothered about opening stuff. But early on, there's such a huge addition to actually opening these Mislaid Curiosities that, especially in low levels of gear and when your companion is a lower level, you're going to want to be opening pretty much everyone you see. I'll get onto exactly what that is in a minute when we talk about the new things inside delves. But ultimately, use whatever setup on your companion that works for you. I'll be dropping Eben Crown once I have the gear because, like I said before, I ain't going to be stopping to open anything I see. I'm just going to be zerging to the last boss. Overall, the delve system hasn't changed all that much. You still have bountiful delves, which you get 4 of a day. You still get coffer key fragments and turn 100 of those into a coffer key. then you can use that coffer key to open a bountiful chest at the end of a bountiful delve. The highest item level loot that you're going to get out of the chest will come from 8 or above, and it will give you a piece of champion gear. There has been some changes to how the keys and fragments work though. You now have a weekly cap of 600 fragments, so that's 6 keys in total. You get these fragments so much easier now. You can get them from things as simple as flying through the little orbs all over the world, completing delve quests or delve related quests, world quests, rares, treasures. Basically everything gives a really reasonable amount of coffer key fragments. So to put it in perspective, when I hit level 90 on my first character, where all I'd done was the campaign, so I'd done the delve related quests during the campaign, didn't really go out of my way to fly through all the orbs in the sky or anything like that, I was capped. I had 600, so I had 6 full keys when I hit level 90. So that's how easy they are to get now. The good thing as well is bag space. They no longer take any bag space at all. Instead, they're a currency, and every time you enter a delve, it automatically converts 100 fragments into a key if you've got over 100 fragments. You also still at this moment in time have things like the weekly quest where you choose an activity to complete that gives 1 whole coffer key. And each zone has got weekly events, which I'll be talking about in separate videos, but they're all pretty quick and easy to do. Just think Awakening the Machine in Ringing Deeps or the Theatre. The thing that surprises me is with the 600 cap being 6 keys a week, I was fully expecting those weekly quests to reward fragments rather than full keys. But being able to reliably get, let's say, 10 keys a week because you could get 4 from bags and then cap 600 fragments, in my opinion, that's actually pretty good. As someone who, it kind of sucks, don't it, when you've got, let's say, 4 to 6 keys, and let's say you're playing EU and it resets on Wednesday, by Thursday you've got no more delves worth doing because you can't do bountiful anymore. So I kind of like the fact that if it is going to be 10 keys a week in total, I think that's a pretty reasonable number. You got to remember, any of this could change, and those weekly quests could actually be meant to reward coffer key fragments, which, in my opinion, would actually make sense. Moving away from ever rewarding full keys and instead giving fragments for basically everything. And you've also got to remember, when you start alts, you're not limited to purely just those 10 keys. You would be able to get key rewards from certain levels of renown with the different factions. You'll probably even have tons and tons of undercoin to be able to just buy a couple of keys from the vendor as well. So those first few days on a new alt, let's say 3-4 weeks into the expansion, are going to feel so good to gear, because you'll be able to literally get pretty much full champion gear in a couple of days or 2-3 days of doing delves. Now, what about the bounty? You still get that. Well, you have a chance to get it the same way you do right now in War Within, and you can only use 1 per week. The thing that's changed with it though is it can also be used on the Prey Nightmare cache. Right now there's no requirement to using it. You literally pop the bounty so the buff is active on you, and then you open the Nightmare cache, which is found in the Prey area of Silvermoon, and you'll get a hero piece. So you'll still get a hero track piece from either completing the delve and using the bounty, so you open the bounty trove at the end, or opening the Nightmare cache in Murder Row in Silvermoon. Now, as I said, there's no requirement to open in the Nightmare cache, but I kind of expect you to have to complete the weekly quest to kill 3 Nightmare Prey targets for the chest to actually become active. This is pure speculation, but on the basis the quest on the beta at the moment has 0 rewards for completing what would be quite a challenging quest, it kind of makes sense that actually the reward from that quest is it grants you access to the chest, as well as probably giving you a coffer key or at least fragments and, you know, some renown and whatever else. So I'm kind of just putting 2 and 2 together here and probably making 7, but it seems strange there's a quest with 0 reward, yet there's a cache there that you have to do nothing for other than just go in a delve and get a little map that you can pop, you know? Yeah. Now, the loot table is different for the bounty, so if you use it on the chest at the end of the delves, or you use it in the Prey area and open that Nightmare cache, the loot tables are completely different. That's already confirmed. So once we actually start to understand these loot tables and see these loot tables, I'm sure each week it will be very clear where you want to use your bounty. Until then, there's not much else to say on it. Now, just on the weekly quest again, I've seen some that don't even give fragments for keys like this one, but again, it's early on the beta, loads will change closer to launch, and we'll know exactly what rewards keys or fragments and what just rewards absolutely nothing at all. As for the Nemesis boss, like I said at the start, I've been doing tier 11 delves almost back to back on multiple characters, but can't get any further than that because the Nemesis boss cannot be found on the beta. Now, this kind of makes sense on the basis that they are going to allow a Hall of Fame with the delve boss, so they're not going to want people being able to sit just killing the Nemesis boss over and over again on the beta, obviously. We do know it's going to be Nullius though, even though there's very little information about any anything else other than the fact that this is who it's probably going to be, which I was quite surprised about on the basis that I have been doing delves. And all of like the Nemesis mobs, you know, when you kill the extra mobs to upgrade that Nemesis cache at the end, they're all like dinosaur / humanoid type weird looking things. So I wasn't really expecting the Nemesis to look anything like this. I thought it was going to be more like maybe a dinosaur or a Zolaman summoning guy or something like that, you know what I mean? I don't know, it doesn't seem to fit the theme of what's actually going on in the delves, but whatever. So we spoke about the rewards and how you get the keys and all of that stuff. That's all pretty much unchanged other than it's new content that you get the keys from. What about inside the delves? Is there anything different? Aside from the delves obviously all being brand new and actually really cool and completely unique from each other, there is one big addition, and that's buffs. Going back to earlier in the video where I said about the setup that I would use on Valeera, and I said I like gaining the buff from opening Mistlaid Curiosities, one of these additions is exactly why I like that. You can get boons. These boons are permanent buffs while you're inside the delve, and there's several different boons you can get. Buffs to your primary stat, secondary stat, a specific secondary stat, even more health, speed. Basically, there's like 7 or 8 different buffs that you can get, but yeah, you can get things like 2% extra agility, and it will last until you leave the delve. So early on, when your gear's lacking and Valeera is hitting like a wet noodle, opening everything to get multiple boons on you before you get to the boss at the end is going to be super helpful. When you complete a delve, there's a chance of getting a buff as well out of the chest. It seems to me like this is currently coming from the Nemesis strongbox, but I must admit I've not really been paying too much attention at where the buff actually comes from. I just know once I've opened all the chests, I've normally got a buff on me ready for the next delve. The thing I will say is, in preparation for this video, the last couple of delves I'd done, I was paying attention, and both of them came from the Nemesis sort of strongbox, so I don't know. Maybe. But these buffs from the end basically just make you want to go and do another one because you might get an extra life. So if you die in the next delve, you'll have an extra life, or it'll increase your stats by 10% in the next delve, or it'll make you have a chance to do fire damage. Like there's multiple buffs. I've seen most of them, but I should have really noted them all down. What I will say is these buffs are meant to go straight on you, but sometimes they end up in your bag as an item, and that item can't even be used. So that's a bit annoying, but again, beta. It's beta for a reason. From the chests at the end, there's loads of cosmetic items that are dropping as well from each one, and even decor for your house. Now, this is kind of like I was saying with the bounty. Once we've got a loot table from all of these delves and what can actually drop from them in terms of housing decor and stuff like that, you'll know which ones to aim for, obviously. At the moment, it's kind of just like, oh, that dropped, that's nice. Now, the last thing I want to touch on, which is not really overly relevant, but the actual XP that you get in delves. Whilst most of this video has been aimed at delves at level 90, when you walk in the delve, you'll get a quest to complete that delve. Now, these quests give crazy good XP. In fact, I see the optimal way of leveling even your first character will be to do only delves as soon as you finish the campaign. You'll naturally be taken to some of them on your journey through the campaign, but with doing no side quests and just following the campaign, you'll be nearly 89 or already 89, depending how many rares you killed or things that you stopped to herb and mine. You know, there's lots of fluctuations, but generally you're going to be around level 89, so you've got one full level to do. That one full level is made super quick just by going and doing a few of the delves once each. On my second character, I actually wanted to do it in reverse, so I went round and done the delves first, but came across a problem. Some of the hand-in NPCs just wasn't there, because they wouldn't appear until further on in the campaign in that area. So an example would be in the Zolaman delves. I went and done both of the delves, I had both of the quests that both hand-in at the same place, but that NPC doesn't actually turn up at that camp until you're about 3/4 of the way through the campaign in Zolaman, because you actually do quests for it up in like the northeastern side of Zolaman, and then that quest giver, or where you hand in, then moves to the point where you're meant to hand it in. Assuming on characters outside of the first character where you complete the campaign, you can actually skip the campaign, that's not going to be a problem anyway, but I thought I'd mention it. Just in case you thought, oh wow, when Midnight launches, I'm just going to go and smash delves and get a big lead over everyone in my guild. You know, I'll be level 84, 85 while they're still 81. You might not be, because you might not be able to hand the quests in without progressing the campaign. But overall, delves are shaping up to be a banger in Midnight, just like they've been a banger in War Within, in my opinion at least. I've loved delves all throughout and look forward to seeing the various versions of each delve over the course of the beta. Next up, we'll be talking about the praise system, and I've done a lot of it, again on multiple characters. So make sure you like the video while you're down there, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss all future Midnight videos, and there's going to be a lot of them, and I'll see you on the next one.